All right, let's jump into a deep dive today, all about probiotics and gut health.
Hmm.
We've got a whole bunch of sources to look at. We've got articles about probiotic foods,
Oh,
um, a scientific study that looks at cheese and how it affects the gut microbiome.
interesting.
We've even got an article that reviews ketogenic diets and their benefits.
Wow.
And we'll even touch on some skepticism from a gastroenterologist,
Okay.
just to keep things, balanced and grounded.
Yeah, I think that's really important.
So get ready, because we're going to discover how coffee might be your gut's new best friend.
Mm.
We'll also see how scientists are turning gut bacteria into these tiny protein pharmacies.
Wow, that's amazing.
And even how a certain amino acid could be like this surprising link to arthritis.
Fascinating.
So by the end of this deep dive, you're going to have a much clearer picture of what probiotics actually do, how they work,
Yeah.
maybe how they don't work, who knows,
Right.
and some practical, evidence-based tips to actually improve your gut health. All right, so first things first, what exactly are probiotics?
Well, essentially, probiotics are live microorganisms. They're often called good bacteria, and they can help promote a healthy balance in your gut microbiome.
Okay.
And you can think of your gut microbiome as this complex ecosystem of trillions of bacteria that play a really crucial role in a lot of things.
Yeah.
Everything from digestion and immunity to even mental health.
Oh, wow.
It's pretty amazing.
So it's like probiotics are adding reinforcements to the good guys in our gut, right?
Exactly. And one way to introduce these beneficial bacteria is through probiotic-rich foods.
Which is where that article that lists 12 probiotic powerhouses comes in, right?
That's right. And while some, like yogurt, are really well known, others might surprise you.
Like sourdough bread. I never would have guessed that, like, my favorite bread could be a source of probiotics.
Right. It's really interesting. It's the sourdough starter that's key. You know that fermented mix of flour and water?
Yeah.
That contains lactic acid bacteria. And that's been linked to some really interesting things like better blood sugar control and even reduced cholesterol.
Really?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. It's essentially like pre-digesting the carbs for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the probiotics themselves, but how that whole fermentation process
Right.
changes the food.
Exactly. Fermentation plays a crucial role in a lot of these probiotic foods. Take kimchi, for example.
Yeah.
That really tangy Korean staple gets its probiotic power from the fermentation process.
All right.
And there's research that suggests that some specific compounds in kimchi, like glucosinolates, might actually have anti-cancer effects.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Kimchi's not the only fermented food on the list, right? We've got pickles, sauerkraut, even kombucha.
That's right, you got it. But remember, you want to choose the traditionally fermented versions if you want to get those probiotic benefits. For example, look for raw, unpasteurized sauerkraut that's been fermented naturally, not the kind that's been heat treated or uses vinegar.
Yeah, so you really have to be a careful label reader if you want to make sure you're getting the real deal.
Absolutely, yeah. And speaking of fermentation, this moves us on to another surprising source of probiotics, cheese.
Wait, cheese? Really?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay.
Certain aged cheeses like cheddar, Swiss, Gouda actually contain probiotics. And this actually ties in perfectly with that scientific study that we have that looked at the impact of cheese on the gut microbiome.
Okay, I'm all ears. What did this study find?
It found that some of the less abundant bacteria in cheese play a really crucial role in modulating gut function.
Interesting.
Yeah, and these bacteria produce beneficial metabolites or byproducts that can actually support gut health in some pretty unexpected ways.
So it's not just about the quantity of bacteria, but also like the types of bacteria present in cheese.
Exactly. For example, one specific bacteria found in cheese, Hofnia alveoli, it increases significantly during cheese making.
Wow.
Yeah, and it may have some positive effects on the gut. These bacteria produce some unique lipids called glycerophospholipids, which help strengthen the gut's protective barrier and reduce inflammation.
It's amazing to think that something as simple as cheese could have such a profound impact on our gut.
Yeah, it really speaks to the complexity and interconnectedness of our bodies. Of course, we need more research, especially in humans, to confirm these findings.
Right, but it definitely makes me want to look at my cheese board a little differently.
Me too.
So speaking of foods that are high in fat, this brings us to another dietary approach that might have surprising gut-related benefits.
Oh, yeah.
Ketogenic diets.
the keto diet.
Ah, yes, the keto diet, the high-fat, low-carb phenomenon.
Exactly. And while it's often touted for its weight loss potential, research suggests that by restricting carbs, keto diets can lead to improved insulin sensitivity and reduced inflammation.
So even though the focus of a keto diet isn't specifically on gut health, it could have indirect benefits through those other mechanisms.
That's right. And one of the key players in this is a molecule called beta-hydroxybutyrate, or BHB for short.
Okay.
It's a ketone body that's produced during ketosis, and it seems to play a role in suppressing hunger, influencing appetite-regulating hormones, and potentially reducing inflammation.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So by shifting our metabolism towards ketosis, we might be able to indirectly influence our gut health.
It's a possibility.
It is a possibility, but it's important to note that keto diets aren't for everyone, and they should be approached with caution and medical guidance, especially for those with any pre-existing health conditions.
Yeah, that's a really great point.
Yeah.
It's really important to remember that any significant dietary change should be discussed with a healthcare professional.
Absolutely.
So while cheese and keto diets might have some indirect benefits for gut health, there's one element that consistently comes up as a cornerstone of a healthy, thriving gut microbiome. Fiber.
Fiber.
Yeah, I've always thought of fiber as kind of like just,
keeping things moving.
keeping things moving, yeah.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it does so much more for our gut than that.
Well, it definitely does that.
But
But it does so much more for your gut than just promoting regularity.
Okay.
A study from the University of Cambridge highlighted just how important fiber is for a healthy gut. It found that fiber promotes the growth of beneficial bacteria, like Faecalibacterium.
Okay.
And these bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids, which act like fuel for your gut cells and help protect against harmful bacteria.
So eating more fiber is like feeding the good guys in our gut.
Exactly. And the study actually suggests that a fiber-rich diet might even be more effective than probiotics in reducing the risk of infection from certain harmful bacteria.
Really?
Yeah, like E. coli and Klebsiella pneumonia.
Wow, that's pretty convincing.
Yeah, fiber is essential. Think of it as like the scaffolding that supports a diverse and balanced gut microbiome. And the best way to get fiber is through whole plant-based foods like vegetables, fruits, beans, whole grains.
So all those delicious and nutritious foods that we should be eating anyway
Right.
are also great for our gut.
It's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Absolutely.
So this brings us to another important aspect of the probiotic discussion, and one that might make you think twice about those flashy probiotic supplements lining the shelves. We have an article here where a gastroenterologist actually argues that probiotics might be a waste of money.
You're kidding.
Whoa, that's a pretty bold statement.
It is. It is.
Why does this doctor feel that way?
Well, this doctor points out that the research on probiotic effectiveness is still pretty limited and inconsistent. Unlike prescription drugs, probiotics aren't subject to the same level of rigorous testing and regulation by the FDA. And there's a lot of misleading marketing and hype around probiotics.
So this doctor's essentially saying to be cautious about those flashy probiotic claims and focus on the basics, like a healthy, fiber-rich diet. But before we write off probiotics entirely, what about those cutting-edge advancements we're hearing about, like turning gut bacteria into these little drug factories?
Oh, yeah, you're talking about using gut bacteria as protein pharmacies. That's a truly groundbreaking approach.
That's the one. Yeah, tell me more.
Scientists have figured out how to engineer bacteriophages, which are viruses that infect bacteria, to actually reprogram gut bacteria into producing and releasing targeted proteins. It's pretty wild, and they've already shown some promising results in mice for reducing inflammation in inflammatory bowel disease.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
And even inducing a feeling of fullness to help with weight management. They actually did this by targeting an enzyme involved with inflammatory bowel disease.
Wow, that is remarkable. So instead of swallowing pills, we might one day have our own customized gut bacteria producing exactly what we need.
It's a fascinating possibility. It could revolutionize how we treat chronic diseases, especially those related to the gut.
It seems like the gut microbiome is involved in almost every aspect of our health.
I know, it's incredible, right?
But before we get too carried away with the future, are there any other kind of fascinating areas of research that we should touch on?
There's one more article I want to bring up because it highlights this kind of surprising link between gut bacteria and arthritis.
Arthritis. You're saying our gut bacteria can impact our joints.
That's what this study suggests. It seems that our gut bacteria break down an amino acid called tryptophan
Okay.
into byproducts, including one called indole.
Okay.
And it turns out that indole can trigger arthritis in mice.
So something produced by our gut bacteria could actually be contributing to joint inflammation.
That's the idea. Indole seems to increase inflammatory T cells, reduce regulatory T cells, and enhance the production of inflammatory antibodies, all of which contribute to the immune system attacking the joints.
So is it possible that manipulating our gut bacteria, maybe through diet, could potentially help manage arthritis?
It's definitely a possibility. Researchers are exploring all sorts of different approaches, like blocking indole production, shifting tryptophan metabolism towards anti-inflammatory pathways, or even using dietary interventions to influence gut bacteria.
It seems like the research on gut health is just exploding with possibilities.
It is. It's amazing.
Well, listener, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive so far.
Yeah.
We've explored everything from probiotic foods and the importance of fiber to cutting-edge research on gut bacteria.
Right.
And even a skeptical take on probiotic supplements.
Yeah. It's important to hear all sides.
Definitely. So what are your main takeaways from our discussion so far?
Well, it's remarkable how much we're learning about the gut microbiome and just how interconnected our bodies are.
That's true.
You know, it really speaks to the growing understanding of the complex ecosystem within us.
Yeah, and it seems like every new discovery opens up even more questions and avenues for exploration.
Absolutely. This is just the beginning.
Okay, so before we move on, I think it's important to address the potential risks associated with probiotics, even though they're generally considered safe. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great point. And while probiotics are generally safe for healthy individuals, there are certain situations where caution is warranted.
Okay.
For example, people with compromised immune systems, like those undergoing chemotherapy or with HIV/AIDS, might be more susceptible to infections from probiotics.
That makes sense. So their immune systems might not be strong enough to handle even those beneficial bacteria.
Exactly. And people with underlying health conditions, especially those affecting the gut, like inflammatory bowel disease, should talk to their doctor before taking probiotics.
Okay.
It's possible that probiotics could potentially make their existing gut issues worse, so it's always best to err on the side of caution and get personalized advice from a healthcare professional who knows your medical history.
Okay, so immunocompromised individuals and those with certain health conditions need to be extra careful.
Yeah.
But what about potential downsides for those of us who are generally healthy?
Even healthy people might experience some mild side effects, like bloating, gas, or digestive discomfort, especially when they first start taking probiotics.
So it's like those good bacteria are kind of causing a little ruckus as they settle into their new home.
That's a good way to put it. It might take a little time for things to balance out.
Right.
The type and dose of probiotics can also play a role in those potential side effects, so starting slowly with a low dose and gradually increasing it might be a good approach.
Okay.
And of course, always pay attention to how your body responds.
It sounds like those potential risks, while important to be aware of, are generally pretty mild and temporary.
Yeah, for most people that's true.
Okay.
But again, if you experience any significant or persistent discomfort, just stop taking the probiotics and consult with your doctor.
Okay, great advice. So we've talked about diet, probiotics, even touched on potential risks.
Yeah.
But I can't help but be fascinated by those groundbreaking advancements in gut health research. Like, what are some other areas that scientists are exploring right now?
Well, one particularly fascinating area of research is fecal microbiota transplantation, or FMT.
FMT. That sounds a bit intense.
It might sound a little unusual,
Okay.
but it's actually a very promising treatment for some gut conditions.
Okay.
It involves transplanting fecal matter from a healthy donor into the gut of a recipient who has a gut-related illness.
Oh, okay. I see where the intense part comes in.
Right.
So you're basically giving someone a healthy dose of gut bacteria to help rebalance their microbiome.
Exactly. And it's been remarkably successful in treating recurrent C. difficile infection, which is a really serious bacterial infection that can cause some severe diarrhea and inflammation of the colon.
Wow, that's incredible. So for certain conditions, FMT could be a game changer.
It could be, yeah.
But what about for overall gut health?
Researchers are exploring the potential of FMT for a wider range of conditions like inflammatory bowel disease, obesity, even mental health disorders.
It's amazing to think that something as seemingly simple as transplanting gut bacteria could have such profound effects on our health.
It's incredible, right?
Yeah.
It really speaks to the power of the gut microbiome.
Yeah.
And as we continue to unravel its mysteries, I'm sure we're going to discover even more ways to harness its potential for good.
Well, we've talked about diet, probiotics, even fecal transplants.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, is there anything else that can influence our gut microbiome?
Believe it or not, research suggests that even our thoughts and emotions can impact our gut bacteria.
Wait, you're saying stress can actually change my gut microbiome?
It's true. The gut-brain connection is a two-way street.
Wow.
Just as our gut bacteria can influence our mood and behavior, our mental state can also influence our gut bacteria.
So when we're stressed or anxious or depressed, those feelings can actually shift the balance of bacteria in our gut.
That's what the research is suggesting.
Wow.
Studies have shown that stress can actually increase the growth of certain harmful bacteria in the gut, while reducing the abundance of beneficial bacteria.
So managing stress isn't just good for our mental health, but it's also super important for our gut health.
Exactly. Practices like mindfulness, meditation, yoga, spending time in nature can all help reduce stress and potentially promote a healthier gut microbiome.
It's incredible how interconnected everything is.
I know, it's amazing, right?
Our gut health is influenced by what we eat, what supplements we take, even how we think and feel. It really highlights the importance of taking that holistic approach to our health.
I completely agree. And it's important to remember that our gut microbiome is constantly evolving throughout our lives. It's not static.
So what we do today can have a lasting impact on the health of our gut bacteria.
Absolutely. Every meal we eat, every medication we take, even every thought we have can shape the composition and function of our gut microbiome.
It's a really powerful reminder that we have a lot of control over our gut health.
I couldn't agree more.
Well, this deep dive has been truly enlightening. We've covered so much ground, from probiotic foods and the importance of fiber to the potential risks of probiotics and the mind-blowing advancements in gut health research.
It's been a fascinating journey.
Yeah, we've explored the potential of using gut bacteria as protein pharmacies.
Right.
The fascinating world of fecal microbiota transplantation, and even the interconnectedness of our gut and our brain.
Yeah, I think we've barely scratched the surface.
Well, and while there's still so much more to discover, are there any clear steps that we can take today to support our gut health?
I think it really boils down to making conscious choices every day to nourish our gut microbiome.
Okay.
Focusing on a diverse, fiber-rich diet, managing stress, being mindful of the medications and supplements we're taking.
Yeah.
That's a really great place to start.
Okay.
And most importantly, I think we should just stay curious and informed about the latest research.
That's a great advice. But before we move on to part 2, I want to circle back to a point we touched on earlier. The rising popularity of probiotic supplements. They've become so popular. Yeah, you can find them everywhere.
And with so many options available, it can be really overwhelming to know which ones to choose.
That's true. And we've heard some skepticism about whether probiotics are even really effective. So how can our listeners kind of navigate this confusing landscape and make informed decisions about probiotic supplements?
That's a great question, and one that deserves a deeper dive. It's a perfect topic to pick up in the next part of our exploration.
Okay, listener, get ready for part 2 of our deep dive into probiotics and gut health. We'll unravel the mysteries of probiotic supplements and hopefully give you the tools you need to choose wisely.
I can't wait.
Welcome back. We ended the last part talking about the kind of overwhelming world of probiotic supplements.
Yeah.
So let's dive right into that.
Okay.
What are some key things that our listeners should know when they're navigating that whole supplement aisle?
Well, it's important to remember that the world of probiotic supplements is kind of like the Wild West.
Okay.
It's not as strictly regulated as, say, pharmaceuticals, so there can be a huge variation in quality and effectiveness.
That makes sense. So how can our listeners cut through all that noise and make sure that they're getting a worthwhile product?
Well, the first thing to remember is that not all probiotics are created equal.
Okay.
Different strains of bacteria actually have different effects. And what works for one person might not work for another.
So grabbing just any random bottle off the shelf probably isn't the best strategy.
Definitely not. You really need to be a savvy label reader,
Okay.
It's crucial to really understand the specific strains that are included in that supplement and what those strains are supposed to do.
Okay, so let's talk strains.
Okay.
Are there any specific strains that are generally considered to be more beneficial than others?
Well, some of the most Well-studied and commonly used probiotic strains include Lactobacillus and Bifidobacterium species.
Okay.
You might remember we talked about Lactobacillus acidophilus.
Right, in yogurt.
In yogurt,
Yeah.
exactly.
So are all Lactobacillus strains basically the same?
Not quite. Within these genera, there are a ton of different species and even substrains,
Wow.
each with its own unique characteristics.
Okay.
For example, Lactobacillus rhamnosus GG is a specific strain that's been studied extensively for its ability to help with diarrhea and irritable bowel syndrome.
So just knowing the genus, Lactobacillus,
Right.
isn't enough. You really need to dig down deeper into the specific species and even the strain.
Precisely. And it's just as important to understand the supposed benefits of those specific strains.
Yeah.
Some might be marketed for, say, digestive health, while others might be targeted towards immune support or even mood regulation.
So choosing a probiotic almost sounds as complex as choosing a wine.
It's a great analogy.
Like there's this whole world of variety and nuance to consider.
It is, and just like with wine, you know, it might take a little bit of trial and error to find the probiotic that really works best for you.
That makes sense, yeah. So besides specific strains, what else should people be looking for on the label?
Another important factor is the CFU count, which stands for colony-forming units.
CFU count. Okay, that rings a bell. Can you remind us what that means?
It tells you the number of live and active bacteria in each dose of the supplement.
Okay.
You might think that a higher CFU count automatically means a better product.
Right.
But that's not always the case.
Really?
Yeah.
So more isn't always better when it comes to probiotics.
Exactly. There's no magic number for CFU counts. The ideal range really depends on the specific strains and what you're hoping to achieve.
Okay.
For example, a probiotic designed for, say, general digestive health might have a very different CFU count than one that's targeted for a specific condition, like IBS.
So it sounds like, consulting with a healthcare professional is probably a good idea when choosing a probiotic supplement.
Absolutely. They can help you navigate all those strains and CFU counts and recommend a product that's really appropriate for your individual needs and goals.
That's a great point. It's always good to get personalized advice from a healthcare professional, especially when it comes to supplements.
For sure. I couldn't agree more. Now, beyond the strains and the CFU counts, don't forget about storage.
Oh, right. Storage.
Yeah, remember, we're dealing with living organisms here, so they need to be stored properly to maintain their viability.
So if a probiotic isn't stored correctly, those little bacteria could actually die off and the supplement wouldn't be effective.
Exactly. So look for probiotics that are stored in the refrigerator and that have a clear expiration date.
Okay, that makes sense.
And speaking of quality, make sure to choose reputable brands that have, good quality control measures in place.
So how can you tell if a brand is reputable?
Look for brands that have third-party testing to verify the quality and purity of their products.
Okay.
This means that an independent lab has analyzed the supplement to make sure it actually contains what it says it contains, and that the bacteria are actually alive and potent.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So storage, quality control, consulting with a healthcare professional, those are all really key factors when trying to navigate this whole world of probiotic supplements.
They are.
But I can't help but think back to that gastroenterologist who called probiotics a waste of money.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's important to remember that the research on probiotics is still somewhat mixed.
Okay.
While there's certainly some promising evidence for their potential benefits, there's still a lot we don't know.
So what are some of the biggest unanswered questions in this field?
Well, for one, we need more large-scale, long-term studies to confirm the benefits of specific probiotic strains for specific conditions.
Okay.
A lot of the existing research has been, small and short-term, which makes it hard to draw, definitive conclusions.
Right, and I imagine studying the gut microbiome is particularly challenging just because it's so complex and so individual.
You're exactly right. Everyone's gut microbiome is so unique.
Yeah.
So what works for one person might not work for another.
Yeah.
We need to move beyond this one-size-fits-all approach and develop more personalized strategies for manipulating the gut microbiome.
It sounds like this is a really dynamic and evolving area of research.
It is. It's super exciting.
So it's important to be enthusiastic about the potential of probiotics.
Yeah.
But also realistic about the current state of the science, right?
Absolutely. I think we need to be cautious about overhyped claims.
Yeah.
And just recognize that probiotics are not a magic bullet.
Okay.
They're a tool.
Yeah.
And like any tool, they need to be used appropriately and with an understanding of their limitations.
That's a great point. So while probiotics might be a helpful tool for some people, they're not a replacement for those like foundational pillars of gut health.
Exactly. It all goes back to that balanced approach we talked about earlier.
Right, yeah.
Prioritizing a diverse, fiber-rich diet,
Uh-huh.
managing stress, being mindful of those medications and supplements we're taking. Those are always going to be crucial.
It's like building a house, you need that strong foundation before you start adding like all the fancy features.
I like that analogy. I like that a lot.
And speaking of foundations, I think it's time to kind of address another foundational aspect of gut health.
Okay.
The gut-brain connection.
Oh, yes, the gut-brain connection.
We touched on this a little bit earlier,
Right.
But it's such a fascinating and impactful area that I think it really deserves a deeper dive.
Absolutely.
It's amazing to think that our gut and our brain, these two like seemingly separate parts of our body, are so intimately connected.
It's truly remarkable.
So when we talk about the gut-brain connection, what exactly are we referring to? Is it like a physical connection, a chemical connection, or is it something else entirely?
Well, it's actually a bit of everything.
Okay.
There's a physical connection through the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the body.
Wow.
It runs from the brainstem all the way down to the abdomen. It acts like a superhighway, carrying signals back and forth between the brain and the gut.
So there's an actual physical link between our brain and our digestive system.
There is. And it's not just about those physical signals either.
Oh.
There's this really complex interplay of chemicals and hormones. The gut microbiome produces this vast array of neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers that allow our brain cells to communicate with each other.
Oh, wow.
In fact, the gut produces more serotonin, that key mood-regulating neurotransmitter, than the brain itself.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Wow, so our gut bacteria are actually contributing to our mood and mental well-being.
Exactly. And this communication actually goes both ways.
Oh.
Just as the gut bacteria can influence our brain can also influence our gut bacteria.
This is where, like, the impact of stress comes in, right? We talked about how stress can negatively impact that balance of bacteria in our gut.
Exactly. When we're stressed, our brain releases this cascade of hormones, like cortisol.
That can really disrupt the delicate balance of our gut microbiome. This can lead to an overgrowth of harmful bacteria and a decrease in those beneficial bacteria, which can then have like a ripple effect on our digestion, immunity, even our mood.
It's like this vicious cycle.
It is.
Stress disrupts the gut, and then the disrupted gut further contributes to stress and other health issues.
Precisely. It really highlights the importance of managing stress, not only for our mental health, but also for our gut health and overall well-being.
So besides avoiding stress, which is, easier said than done, what are some practical things that people can do to actually nurture the gut-brain connection?
Well, we know that certain dietary choices can actually have a positive impact on both our gut and our brain. For example, a diet that's rich in fruits, vegetables, and whole grains provides the fiber that our beneficial gut bacteria just thrive on. And then these bacteria produce those short-chain fatty acids that we talked about earlier,
which have been shown to have anti-inflammatory and even neuroprotective effects.
So what we eat literally feeds both our gut and our brain.
It does. And there are specific foods that are particularly good for nurturing that gut-brain connection. Fermented foods like yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut. They're rich in probiotics, which can help support that healthy balance of bacteria in the gut. Omega-3 fatty acids found in oily fish like salmon, walnuts. They've also been linked to improved brain health and mood regulation.
I'm starting to see a theme here.
Right.
A lot of the foods that are good for our gut are also really good for our brain.
That's right. It all comes back to that holistic approach to health. And beyond diet, there are other lifestyle factors that can positively impact the gut-brain connection as well.
Like what? Give us all the tips.
Okay, well, regular exercise is huge. It not only helps with stress management, but it also promotes blood flow to the gut, which can improve digestion and nutrient absorption.
Okay, so get
moving, exactly. Getting enough sleep is also essential.
Sleep?
Sleep deprivation can disrupt the balance of hormones, including those involved in gut health and mood regulation.
So many things are tied to sleep.
I know, it's so important. And then finally, cultivating mindfulness practices like meditation, yoga. Those can be incredibly beneficial for both our mental and physical health, including our gut health.
So it's a combination of what we eat, how we move, how we sleep, how we manage stress.
Yes.
That all contribute to this healthy gut-brain connection.
Exactly. It's about taking a holistic approach, recognizing that our bodies are interconnected systems that all influence each other.
It sounds like there's a lot we can do to nurture this fascinating connection between our gut and our brain.
There is. It's exciting.
But before we move on, I'm curious about one other aspect of gut health that we haven't really touched on yet.
Okay.
The role of prebiotics.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah.
While probiotics often steal the spotlight, prebiotics are equally important for a thriving gut microbiome.
Okay, so I have to admit, I'm a little fuzzy on the difference between probiotics and prebiotics. Can you break it down for us?
Absolutely. Probiotics, as we've been discussing, are the actual live bacteria that we're introducing into our gut.
Right.
Prebiotics, on the other hand, are types of fiber that act as food for those beneficial bacteria.
Okay.
They're like the fertilizer that helps those good bacteria flourish.
Ah, got it. So while probiotics provide the actual bacteria,
Right.
prebiotics kind of nourish and support the growth of those bacteria.
Precisely. And a healthy gut needs both.
So where do we find these prebiotic powerhouses?
Prebiotics are found naturally in a variety of plant-based foods,
Okay.
particularly those that are rich in soluble fiber.
Okay.
Think bananas, onions, garlic, asparagus, artichokes, leeks, even chicory root.
So once again, those healthy foods that we should be eating anyway
Right.
are also great for our gut.
Exactly. It's amazing how that works out. And just like with probiotics, there are also prebiotic supplements available,
Oh, okay.
which can be helpful for people who maybe struggle to get enough prebiotics through their diet alone.
So it seems like we just keep circling back to that key message. A diverse and balanced diet is the foundation of a healthy gut.
It really is. But it's not just about what we eat. It's also about how we live.
Right.
Managing stress, getting enough sleep, exercising regularly, even cultivating mindfulness practices.
Yeah.
All of these things can play a role in nurturing a thriving gut microbiome.
It's incredible how interconnected it all is.
It is. It's fascinating.
And I love how, so much of it comes back to just taking care of ourselves.
It does, yeah. Self-care is gut care.
It really is. Well, this deep dive has been truly enlightening.
It has.
It's incredible to think that our gut, something we often take for granted,
Right.
is so complex and impactful. And, while we've covered a lot of ground, I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
I agree. There's still so much more to discover about the gut microbiome. Yeah. And its role in our overall health.
So what are your kind of main takeaways from our discussion so far?
For me, it boils down to really appreciating the incredible power of the gut microbiome and recognizing that it's not this static entity. It's constantly evolving and responding to everything we do.
So how we choose to live our lives, from the food we eat to even like the thoughts we think,
Right.
can have this really profound impact on the health and balance of our gut bacteria.
Absolutely. And those choices, in turn, can ripple out and affect every aspect of our well-being.
It's such an empowering thought. It means we have more control over our health than we might realize.
We really do, yeah.
And as we continue to unravel those mysteries of the gut microbiome, I have no doubt we'll discover even more ways to optimize its health and, in turn, optimize our own health.
I agree. It's an exciting time for gut health research.
Well, listener, get ready for part 3 of our deep dive into probiotics and gut health. We're going to pick up where we left off, explore some final fascinating insights, and leave you with some really actionable steps you can take to start nurturing your gut microbiome today.
Can't wait.
Welcome back to our final deep dive into the world of probiotics and gut health. We've covered so much already. I'm excited to see what else we uncover.
Me too. And in this last part, I thought we could touch on some intriguing areas that we haven't had a chance to really discuss yet.
Perfect. I'm all ears.
All right. So let's start by talking about a specific area of gut health research that's gaining a lot of attention lately. The gut-lung axis.
The gut-lung axis. That sounds intriguing. I'm familiar with the gut-brain connection, but the gut-lung connection is a new one for me.
It's a pretty new area of research, but it's generating a ton of excitement because it's revealing yet another way that our gut microbiome influences our overall health.
So what exactly is the gut-lung axis?
It refers to this intricate communication network between our gut and our respiratory system.
Sure.
It might seem surprising that these two seemingly distant parts of our body are so interconnected, but research is showing that the gut microbiome plays a significant role in influencing lung health.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
How does this communication actually work?
Well, it's a pretty complex interplay of various factors, including immune signaling, the production of metabolites by gut bacteria, and even the physical migration of bacteria or their byproducts from the gut to the lungs.
So you're saying that bacteria from our gut can actually travel to our lungs?
It's possible. While the exact mechanisms are still being investigated, there's evidence to suggest that bacteria or their metabolites can translocate from the gut to the lungs.
Wow.
Potentially influencing the immune response and overall health of the lungs.
That's mind-blowing. So what are the implications of this gut-lung connection? Like, what does it actually mean for our health?
Well, I think it opens up this whole new avenue for understanding and potentially treating respiratory conditions. For example, research is exploring the role of the gut microbiome in conditions like asthma, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, and even respiratory infections.
So could manipulating the gut microbiome potentially help manage or even prevent some of these lung conditions?
That's the hope. Researchers are investigating the potential of dietary interventions, prebiotics, probiotics, even FMT, to modulate the gut microbiome and hopefully positively influence lung health.
That's really incredible. It seems like every day there's a new discovery about the gut microbiome and its huge influence on our health.
I know, it's really remarkable, and we're just beginning to uncover its potential.
Well, speaking of uncovering potential, I want to touch on another fascinating area of gut health that we briefly mentioned earlier. The potential of using gut bacteria as tiny protein pharmacies.
Oh, yes. That's a really groundbreaking approach that has the potential to totally revolutionize medicine.
I remember you mentioning that scientists have already shown some promising results in mice for reducing inflammation in inflammatory bowel disease. And even inducing a feeling of fullness to help with weight management. Can you remind us how this actually works?
Of course. The basic idea is to engineer gut bacteria to produce specific therapeutic proteins that can then act directly within the gut or even circulate throughout the body to target other organs.
So instead of taking a pill, we could have our own gut bacteria producing the medicine we need.
Exactly. And researchers are exploring a variety of techniques to achieve this. One approach involves using bacteriophages, which, remember, are those viruses that infect bacteria, to actually deliver genetic instructions into the gut bacteria, essentially reprogramming them to produce those desired proteins.
It sounds like science fiction.
It does, doesn't it? But it's becoming a reality, and the potential applications are huge, you know? Imagine being able to treat conditions like inflammatory bowel disease, obesity, even neurological disorders by simply modifying our gut microbiome.
It's pretty mind-boggling to think about all the possibilities.
It really is. And, you know, this research is still in its very early stages, but it holds so much promise for the future of medicine.
This has been such an incredible journey. We've explored such a huge range of topics. From probiotic foods and the importance of fiber to the potential risks of probiotics. And all these groundbreaking advancements in gut health research.
We've even delved into some pretty fascinating areas like the gut-brain connection, the gut-lung axis, and the potential of using gut bacteria as protein pharmacies.
It's clear that the gut microbiome is this unbelievably complex and fascinating ecosystem that plays such a vital role in our overall health.
It really does.
And while we've learned a lot, there's still so much more to discover.
Absolutely. But even with all the unknowns, there are still practical steps we can take today to support our gut health.
What are your top recommendations for our listeners? What can they do starting, like, right now?
I think first and foremost, focus on a diverse and balanced diet that's rich in fiber. Think fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts.
So that familiar refrain, eat your veggies.
Exactly. And don't forget about fermented foods, which can provide a natural source of probiotics.
So load up on that yogurt, kimchi, sauerkraut.
Exactly. And beyond diet, managing stress is crucial.
Stress.
Incorporate some stress-reducing practices like exercise, meditation, spending time in nature into your daily routine.
And don't forget about sleep.
Getting enough sleep is huge for overall health, including gut health.
So eat well, manage stress, get enough sleep, and move your body. Those are all pretty manageable steps, right?
They are, absolutely. And remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress.
That's a good point.
Every small step you take towards a healthier lifestyle can really make a difference.
It's empowering to know that we have so much control over our own well-being.
It is. And the more we learn about the gut microbiome, the more we realize just how much power we have to shape its health and in turn shape our own health.
Well, listener, as we wrap up this deep dive into probiotics and gut health, I hope you're leaving with a sense of wonder and a newfound appreciation for the incredible world within us.
Me too.
It's this world that's constantly evolving, constantly influencing us,
Right.
and constantly offering us new opportunities to make choices that support our overall well-being.
I couldn't agree more. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep nurturing that amazing ecosystem within you.
And on that note, we'll bring this deep dive to a close. Until next time, keep diving deep into the world of knowledge.